Lothar Matthäus. On the football pitch, the guy was an absolute titan, a World Cup winning captain who basically defined an era for Germany. But for a legend like that, the biggest challenge isn't always winning the next match, it's figuring out what to do in the game after the game. So today, we're going to look at how he built a whole second empire, long after the final whistle blew.
Let's start with just one number, 150. That's how many times Lothar Matthäus played for Germany. It's a record that still stands today. And look, this isn't just some random statistic, it's the absolute bedrock of his legacy. It's the foundation for everything that came next.
But that brings up the big question for any top athlete, right? What's the plan when it's all over? I mean, how do you go from being a World Cup hero, a legend to millions, to building a totally new life? And, just as importantly, staying relevant. To really get it, we're going to dive into his life after that final whistle. We'll peel back the curtain on his public and personal life, see how he became the voice of German football, break down his pretty impressive business plan, and then, at the end, we'll tackle the big one. What is his ultimate legacy?
All right, first up, let's look at what happened right after he hung up his boots for good back in 2000. This is really the start of his big transformation, from player to, well, something much more complex. But, his life after playing wasn't just about career moves. He stayed deep in the public eye, and a lot of the time, it had absolutely nothing to do with football. So let's get into his personal life, which has been making headlines for decades. Yeah, a huge part of his public persona has been his, let's call it, colorful and very public personal life. His 5 marriages were basically a constant source of material for the tabloids. It made him a household name all over Europe, even for people who couldn't care less about football. All that media attention, it kept his brand alive, totally separate from what he did on the pitch. And beyond the marriages, he's also a father of 4. This side of him has definitely played a big role in shaping his public image. It kind of softened that tough guy reputation he had as a player. You especially see it with his youngest son, Milan, who you'll often see right there with him at football events. It's a really different side of him. Okay, so you've got all this public attention humming in the background. How did he actually reinvent himself professionally? Well, this is where he made a really smart pivot and basically turned himself into the undisputed voice of German football. His professional journey is fascinating to watch. At first, he went down that traditional path for ex-players, right? He tried his hand at coaching with teams like Rapid Vienna and even the Hungarian national team, but he pretty quickly realized his real talent was somewhere else. He pivoted away from the sideline and into a media career as a pundit and an ambassador, and that's where he really found his groove. His biggest role today, no question, is as a lead expert for Sky Sport Germany. But listen, he's not just another talking head. He is known for being brutally honest, totally unfiltered, and his analysis is just surgically precise. To put it simply, when Matthäus talks about German football, everybody, and I mean everybody, listens.
And right alongside his punditry, he's using that legendary status as a global ambassador. He's a face for his old club, the mighty Bayern Munich, and for the entire Bundesliga, helping to promote German football all over the world.
So how does all of this, the punditry, the ambassadorship, all come together as a business? This is where you really see the shift from the pitch to a very carefully built portfolio. See, the Matthäus business isn't just one thing. It's this whole diversified portfolio. You've got his high-profile media work and his ambassador roles right at the center, but it's all built on that unshakable foundation of his football legacy.
And the actual organizations he's linked with, well, they speak volumes about his brand power. We're talking Sky Sport, Bayern Munich, corporate speaking gigs, and now even a club investor. He's turned his name into a strategic, multi-part business.
And maybe the most interesting new chapter is his jump into club ownership. In 2023, he invested in a Ghanaian club, the Accra Lions, which is a huge evolution. Think about it. He's not just commenting on the game anymore. He's a strategic investor who's actually shaping a club's future. That's the next level. So, when you combine the player, the public figure, the pundit, and now the businessman, you've got to ask a bigger question. What is the lasting legacy of Lothar Matthäus? Because it's clearly about way more than just the trophies you won.
It really comes down to 2 separate but connected legacies. On one side, you have the player, the leader on the field, the World Cup captain, and on the other side, you have the brand, the media powerhouse, the global ambassador, the savvy investor. He's managed to build a second legacy that's just as impressive as his first.
And in the end, everything we've talked about, his media career, his businesses, it's all anchored by that legendary playing career. Those record-setting 150 games for Germany, they're not just a piece of history, they're the asset that gives the Matthäus brand its incredible value today.
So that leaves us with a pretty fascinating question to chew on. For a legend like Lothar Matthäus, what was the bigger win? Lifting the World Cup trophy back in 1990? Or building a brand so powerful it has kept him right at the top of the game for decades after he stopped playing? It's something to think about. Thanks for joining us.